Okay, guys, now that I know how to create a perfect square trinomial by completing my square, I'm going to do that in order to solve an equation by taking square roots. So we're going to complete the square, and then we're going to solve an equation by taking of square roots. Okay? So if I look at this one right here, I do not have a perfect square trinomial. 20 is not a perfect square of anything. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that from both sides of my equation. That's going to give me x squared plus 12x equals negative 20. Okay? So now is where I need to turn this side of the equation, the left side of the equation, into a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to take that b term, and I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. In this case, my b term is 12. So I'm going to take 12, I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. Okay? Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and I'm going to square that, and that gives me 36. So that's the term that completes my square. Well, now that I'm dealing with an equation, what I need to do is I need to add that term to both sides, because to keep it equal, if I add the same thing to both sides, it stays equal. So I'm going to add 36 over here, which means I need to add 36 on this side of the equation. So now that's going to give me x squared plus 12x plus 36 equals 16. All right, now this is a perfect square trinomial. I got a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, my a term is x, my b term is 6, and twice of 6x is 12x. So that's going to factor as a plus b squared. So this is going to factor as x plus 6 squared. And I'm going to set that equal to 16. Okay, guys? So now that I've got x plus 6 squared equals 16, now I can solve it by taking square roots of both sides of the equation. So I take the square root of this side, that gives me x plus 6. I take the square root of this side equals plus or minus 4. Remember, I've got to do that plus or minus. So I've got x plus 6 equals 4, or x plus 6 equals negative 4. So to finish solving this, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides here. I got x equals negative 2, or if I subtract 6 over here, I got x equals negative 10. Okay, guys? So that is how you solve a quadratic equation by completing the square. All right, let's look at our second example here. Well, here I've got x squared plus 80 equals negative 18x. Before I do this, I want to write it in ax squared plus bx plus c format, because right now it's not in that format. My negative 18x is on the other side. So let's add 18x to both sides. So now I got x squared plus 18x plus 80 equals 0. And if I look at that, I realize I don't have a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so now I need to move that c term, which is 80, to the other side and find a new c term that's going to complete my square. So I got x squared plus 18x equals negative 80. All right, so what I need to do now is do the b over 2 squared. And in this case, my b term is 18. Divide that by 2 and square it. Okay, so 18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 squared is 81. So that's what I need to add to both sides of my equation to complete my square. All right, so I got x squared plus 18x plus 81 equals 1. All right, now this fits the pattern of a perfect square trinomial. So it's going to factor as x plus 9 squared. Remember, you can take the square root of that term, square root of that term, and whatever sign is in the middle is the one you're going to use. So I got x plus 9 squared equals 1. So now I can finish solving this by taking the square root of both sides. If I take the square root of x plus 9 squared, I get x plus 9. If I take the square root of 1, that gives me plus or minus 1. So I've got x plus 9 equals 1, or x plus 9 equals negative 1. And I'm going to go ahead and finish solving for both. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides, so x equals negative 8, or if I subtract 9 from both sides there, I get x equals negative 10. All right? So first thing you do, set it up in standard form. If your c term is not does not make it a perfect square trinomial. Move it to the other side. Then you need to complete your square, add that term to both sides, factor your perfect square trinomial, and then take the square root of both sides. Okay? We'll look at a couple more examples. Here I've got x squared minus 6x minus 27 equals 0. 27 is not a perfect square, but if I add 27 to both sides, I can get it out of the way and find the term that does complete my square. So I got x squared minus 6x equals 27. All right, so now I need to find the term that completes my square. My b term, so b over 2 squared. In this case, my b term is negative 6 divided by 2 squared. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and if I square that, I get positive 9. Remember, guys, if you square a negative, you get a positive. So I need to add 9 to both sides of my equation. So that's going to give me x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 36. Okay? So now I'm going to factor this as a perfect square trinomial. This fits the pattern a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So it's going to factor as a minus b squared. So my a term is going to be x. My b term is going to be 3, and it's going to be x minus 3 squared equals 36. So now what I need to do is take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to end up with x minus 3 equals plus or minus 6. So I got x minus 3 equals positive 6, which would make x equal 9, or x minus 3 equals negative 6, which would make x equal to negative 3. So x equals 9 or x equals negative 3. Okay? And then this very last one, I've got x squared minus 8 equals negative 2x. So again, I need to add 2x to both sides to put that in standard form. X squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. 8 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides to get it out of the way. X squared plus 2x equals 8. Now I'm going to take my b over 2 squared, which in this case is 2 over 2, and I'm going to square it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And I got x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 9. This is a perfect square trinomial. It factors as x plus 1 squared equals 9. And then if I finish taking the square root of both sides, I'm going to have x plus 1 equals plus or minus 3. So x plus 1 equals 3, or x plus 1 equals negative 3. Subtract 1 from both sides, x equals 2, or x equals negative 4. All right, guys.